we doing? Thank you. That's a little bit more like it. Welcome to the Rise of the Retro FPS. It is so good to have you guys here at PAX 2023.
I'm Scott Miller. Got started back in 1990 with Apogee. We hooked up with id Software and released Commander Keen. We did some games, Duke Nukem. We formed the 3D Realms label, did Duke Nukem 3D, Shadow Warrior. Worked with Remedy on Max Payne. Worked with Human Head on Prey. We kind of relaunched ourselves 2 years ago to really focus on working with indie studios and developers like Sam here with Turbo Overkill. So.
Got a chainsaw leg.
I'll let Sam take over now.
So I'm Sam Prebble. I live in New Zealand, the other side of the world. Turbo Overkill is my first game that I've ever made. Before that, I mostly did Doom 2 mods and a few hobby projects.
Yeah, a couple of mods you might have heard of.
Total Chaos.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, I'm Gianni Matragrano.
Holy shit! Can I get your autograph?
Yeah. Machine, my badonkers. I know there are desperate sluts in the area. I'm looking at Gianni.
Hey. Don't take all my ideas.
Yeah, I know. Hey, I'm Dave. I run New Blood, but if you're at this panel, you probably fucking knew that. We make Dusk and Medieval and Ultrakill and other games that are not as popular as those three. And we love you and we hate money.
Machine, turn back now. The halls of this con are not for your kind. Turn back, or you will be crossing the will of the PAX enforcers, who are approaching your location rapidly. We're kicking you out the back. Hi, I'm Gianni Matragrano. And I just wanted to say I'm sorry. You know what for. I voiced Gabrielle in Ultrakill, Goon in Fallen Aces, Guardsman in Gloomwood, a bunch of random shit for New Blood, and I also voiced Maw in Turbo Overkill, and I weasel my way into pretty much every boomer shooter that comes out as long as I can manage it. So thank you. Looking forward to chatting.
And I'm Lexi Mayfield. I'm from Nightdive Studios, and I have been working for Nightdive for a couple years. I got my start working, making Doom levels way back in the day, mostly multiplayer maps for Doom Capture the Flag and deathmatch levels and along those lines. Moved on from that to making multiplayer mods. Went from there to working on multiplayer Doom ports, and eventually Nightdive came a-knocking, and I took the opportunity, and I've been with them for a few years. And I've been I've worked on the Quake remaster. Before I joined Nightdive, I worked on the, excuse me, the Doom remaster briefly, adding things like widescreen support and the uncapped frame rate and stuff like that. And worked on the Blade Runner remaster, and now I'm full speed ahead on Rise of the Triad. So.
I guess I'll introduce myself. Hi, my name is Shannon O'Neill. I am currently the marketing director for Hellforge Studios, which is a small indie studio based in New Zealand. I am also a writer for Reload magazine, so if you guys like retro FPS shooters, you should definitely check that magazine out. But I also got my start in Doom modding and mapping, so you'll sense this theme of Doom as we go throughout this panel today. All right, so now that we're all introduced, why don't we talk a little bit about shareware? And I think Scott might know a little bit about this.
I mean, it's a big topic.
I mean, well, I think, like, how did you decide that, you wanted to start giving game away for free, crazy man? Like, why? Like, because there was not too long ago, people were like, no, give game away bad. Then people no buy game. You can't do that. But you were doing that in, like, 89.
Yeah, well, I couldn't find a retail publisher to take my games, so I had to release them somewhere. So I just got lucky trying this whole thing on this is like pre-internet, so releasing games on the bulletin board systems. I actually released a couple of full games in the bulletin board systems back in 1988 or so, and asked for people to send me money, and that did not work at all. So I had these cross games, which are these little ASCII text games, kind of like in the style of a rogue game. And I tried a new thing where I broke it down into a trilogy, released just the first episode on the BBS systems, and said, hey, if you like it, send me some money, you'll get the rest of the game, and that totally worked. That was like the magic trick that worked.
The problem was the shareware levels were always the best ones. The rest of the game.
They weren't too bad.
But it ended up working out pretty well for you.
I mean, yeah, it worked out, and I realized I was onto something, so I dropped out of college. I started looking around on the internet to find other people that could, help make games, and I ended up sending some letters to John Romero, tricking him into getting in touch with me, and he sent me this demo of this Mario kind of mock-up game, and side-scrolling, and it was absolutely pixel smooth, and I was like, totally blown away. I'd never seen anything like it. Didn't think it was possible on the PC. And I said, look, I promise you, if you can make a game with this technology, we'll do really well. And he was actually, him and John Carmack and Tom Hall, they were kind of like disbelieving this whole shareware thing. So I said, look, I'll give you, whatever money you need. Let's just give this a try. They did. And it all worked out. I mean, Commander King took off. For the shareware era back in 1990, Commander King was pulling in $12,000, $15,000 a month, which, for us.
That's like $1 million in today's money.
I mean, it was really eye-opening back then, and so we knew we were on to something. Id Software kind of said, yeah, let's keep doing this. They stopped working at Sofdisk, which is where they were working at the time. They formed their company. We kept trekking along. We did more Commander King games. And anyway, we just kept recruiting new authors, new developers, kind of just finding people, like on the indie scene, even though it wasn't called that back then. And found Todd Repogel, who ended up working with us to make Duke Nukem. And the company just grew from there.
All right. So obviously, shareware then took off, and it was awesome, and we had a lot of really great games in people's hands that suddenly, the small turned big. So tell us a little bit more, and of course anybody jump in and comment, but how did the indie really just get up to the level of not just underground, but cult classics?
Well, shareware allowed all these authors who didn't have an opportunity at the retail level to, start, releasing things on their own and seeing if it would work out or not. Tim Sweeney very quickly sort of saw what we were doing. He actually contacted me several times. We communicated. I gave him a lot of advice on things. He released a game called ZZT. Then he started doing something called Jill of the Jungle. And that's really...
Yeah, Jill of the Jungle fan? Yeah. Two Jill of the Jungle fans.
Hey.
We'll get you free V-Bucks.
So, who knows what would have happened if this shareware thing didn't allow indie studios to really kind of bootstrap themselves, would id Software be around? Would Epic be around? Would we be around? Who knows? But... it just gave everyone an outlet, kind of like what Steam does now, and all
it's like now we've got Steam Next Fest of, instead of shareware, it's demos. Then we make you pay for early access.
But yeah, without knowing it, we were kind of creating the whole indie scene. We're allowing, the shareware market back then allowed indies to have a chance without going through retail.
So you guys might recognize a couple of those titles on the screen there.
I have never heard of any of these games.
Absolutely not. But yeah, so then we ended up having this big golden boom of shooter games. So, I mean, I was born in 95, right?
Jesus.
So I was a baby when everything came out, and Doom's older than me, which is insane because I now write about it. So yeah, the 90s, there was something about it, man, the counterculture that it created, Like, I don't know, anybody got thoughts about these games and any others that they like, would suggest from the 90s?
Well, I
and
mean,
this golden era?
I think for a lot of us, this was our childhood. This was growing up. I mean, I was an '80s baby, so like the game that changed my life was Wolf 3D. I went over to my friend's house and he had it running on a 386 in black and white, and he's like, "You got to play this game," and I'm watching him play, and he's like going around corridors shooting Nazis, and it's like full. I was like, "This is the greatest thing I have ever seen in my entire life," and it changed my fucking life. And fast forward to Doom and ROTT and Quake and Duke Nukem 3D. We actually have Duke Nukem with us here today. Duke, do you want to say a few words?
$19 Fortnite card. Who wants it?
But
That's the full extent of my contributions to this panel, by the way. I don't know anything about making games. I'm just, every once in a while, I'm just going to derail the conversation, and that's about it.
All right, well, but then something happened. What happened? Like, why all of a sudden did this kind of thing stop coming around?
oh yeah, now we get to make fun of YouTubers.
Yeah.
So
Some of you guys might recognize this.
yesterday's discourse. We have fun. I mean, I could field this one, so I've talked about this a bunch. What happened was a lot of things. Consoles happened, Halo happened, Half-Life happened. Games started becoming more cinematic, more streamlined, more linear due to not only constraints, but just design was changing. We had been doing the run and gun, hold 9 weapons at a time in big levels thing for a while, and because of the switch to consoles and because of the popularity of games like Halo and Half-Life, it wasn't fashionable to make games like Duke anymore. I mean, Scott, you lived through that generation change. What was that like? Going from, well, I mean, you went through a few engine changes too.
I mean, it's kind of a miracle what's happened, because back in the 90s, it was all about got to have the best technology, and id was always leading the race in that respect in the 90s. They were always the ones to shoot for. So it was always, trying to keep up with what id was doing with their technology and what Jordan Carmack was putting together. So we were all kind of like following him and doing the best we could. If you didn't have the best engine, your game just wasn't going to sell, because people really keyed off of the technology back then. But in the last 10 or 12 or whatever years, it's switched over now towards gameplay seems to be more the focus. A lot of these really high-end games have all gone to like, can only hold 2 weapons or whatever, and they become very, linear in the way you traverse through the game. And so I think people are kind of craving the idea of going back to more open world levels, carry all the weapons you want, you don't need to have all the cinematics that you used to have, just keep the story simple, that's fine. So we're back in the era now where graphics aren't the most important thing anymore. It's gone back to gameplay, I think.
Yeah, and I've always found that everything goes in cycles, music, movies, fashion, video games. We're seeing it in the indie scene now. We've already looped back around to, the Atari and, the Pixel and the Super Nintendo and N64. Now we're getting into like that PS1 horror, we're coming back around. Call of Duty 1 is going to be a retro shooter pretty soon, and that's weird.
Oh, God.
But I'm into
not
it.
ready.
I would love COD 2 again, like, that'd be sick. But yeah, so we had the rise and fall and rise, really. Anybody else have anything to say about what happened and how we got to what we're doing now?
Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing with only 2 weapons? Sir, gun heavy. That's all I got.
That was great.
Thanks.
Does the suit jack him off?
Oh yeah. The suit totally jacks me off.
Gianni, everybody.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks, Chief. So yeah,
Then suddenly everything started coming back to life in the boomer shooter scene. Why? Because we got some really cool takes on classic games. So good old Rise of the Triad came back in 2013.
Civvy. Sorry, keep going.
So I guess like the way that us met, like me and the new Apogee, there was a company called Interceptor Entertainment out of Denmark they were trying to make Unreal Engine remake of Duke Nukem 3D. Illegally-ish, but it was really sweet. And, I had supported them a bunch, and they had reached out to me, and they said they had gotten in touch with this legendary developer. I'm going to do my Fred impression. I love doing my Fred impression. He said, yeah, Dave, I got in touch with these legendary developers. You have to talk to them. They're going to let us do something crazy. And I got on the phone, and it was Terry. Is Terry here? You can't miss him. He's 7 feet tall. It was Terry from the new Apogee, and he says, we got the rights. We have rights to work on one more Duke Nukem game. And I said, absolutely fucking not. This was like 2010, and I was like, no, thank you. And I've told this story a million times. I was about to hang up the phone with Fred and Terry, and before I went, I said, do you guys still have the rights to Rise of the Triad? And Terry was like, yeah. And Fred was like, yeah, we'll make that game. And I was like, you guys want to make a Rise of the Triad remaster? And we were like, yeah. But instead, we rebooted it and made a whole new game. And that was ROTT 2013, and we love it. And it is widely credited with, being the first new boomer shooter in like 15 years. And if it wasn't for ROTT 2013, there'd be no new Apogee, no new 3D Realms, no Nightdive, no New Blood, no anything. So thank you to our janky baby from 2013 that I hear if you have a 4080, you can get 59 frames per second in the game now. But yeah, and that's kind of led to this.
Which is probably why most of you are here now. Or maybe not, I don't know. But this is actually what brought me into this sort of area because, like I said, I was born in 95. I didn't really start Doom modding until like 2012. So I was really, really late to the game, and then I just started seeing all these games coming out as, time went on, and I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? Like, Dusk is actually the first, boomer shooter that I played, and I was like, dude, because my friends were like, dude, just play it, you're gonna love it, and I said, I don't know, the graphics seem really janky,
Hey, that's David Szymanski's finest work.
It is, though, because I finally, started to see...
Chop Goblins just came out. What are you talking about?
Any Chop Goblins fans in the audience?
There better be. All right.
But so this was this beautiful revival of the scene. So honestly, Dave, I guess I should ask you,
Me?
Why, how, you, what's going on?
What's the question? I'm sorry.
Why'd you do this?
Why does Dusk and Medieval and all this stuff exist? You obviously know everything.
Yeah, as sitting president and prime minister of retro shooters, it just kind of snowballed. It really just took one. I mean, so in 2013 we had Rise of the Triad, and let's also not forget the Shadow Warrior reboot that started just around the same time and came out from Devolver and Flying Wild Hog. And then it was funny because we did that, and then next thing you know, Wolfenstein is a retro shooter again. We get Doom 2016, we get Doom Eternal. All of a sudden, shooters are fucking rocking and rolling again. And some weirdo DMs me on Twitter in 2016. His name's David. He looks like Santa Claus, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to check out my game?" And I was like, "Not really." And then I played it, and it was Dusk. And it was amazing. Even we've put the build out that David sent me. It was just one room, but it was all there, all the movement, all the interactivity, everything. It's this guy gets it. And we didn't know. We put out the first trailer for Dusk, and it was kind of, if you remember that trailer, it was quake with fear, meet your doom, shed some blood. It was the most on-the-nose, corniest thing ever, and people lost their mind. It was on CNET. They were retro shooters are back, and I was like, whoopsies. We actually have to make this game good now. And 2 years later, it was the end of 2018. Dusk finally comes out, and then the Void Point comes out with Ion Fury on the build engine. We do a Medieval, and then it just kind of snowballs. There's Project Warlock. Next thing you know, there are more retro shooters than you can shake a stick at. And it turns out there was a whole lot of other people who really like these kind of games, and they are all here in the audience. Every sale we have ever made is in this panel right now, and it really just affirmed that we're back, baby. So it was really cool to see, and I think for Scott and the new Apogee guys, they just reaffirmed what they've been wanting to get back into for a long time, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, this is going back to old school, shooters, which is, what I grew up loving and helping to make back in the 90s. So to me, it's glorious. I see Dusk as not Rise of the Triad, but I see Dusk as sort of ground zero for this whole reawakening of this new genre. I remember seeing you at QuakeCon with that game and walking by and you had that little TV there and seeing this whole thing, and I was thinking, this is never going to sell.
Yeah. I didn't think so either.
But no, I mean, the gameplay is there, though. The fun factor is there. I mean, kudos to you.
Yeah, it's all about, this thing we do, it's all about gameplay. It's all about doing it right. We're not doing it for the money, trust me. These games don't sell a lot. Originally we were doing it because nobody else was.
Yeah.
We made the games that we want to play. The same time, people who were making Doom mods and stuff, they just wanted new levels, they wanted new WADs, they wanted new weapons. This nobody else is doing it. We're gonna do it our fucking selves. But now there's a lot of people doing it. It's what I like to call an embarrassment of riches. There are so many retro shooters now that there are too many to play, and that's an amazing thing. And it's great that we can come together. Whoops, wait, wrong slide. And it was, a few years after that, I think in 2020 when the pandemic happened, we all came together for something that we called Realms Deep. Anybody tune into Realms Deep the last few years?
Yeah.
And that brought together all of our studios, new and old, to, just kind of celebrate and, kind of come out and say, like, there's all these games now. If these are the kind of games you've been looking for, you got them. And
I think, like, for me personally, Dusk was a point where I played it around, that time when it started going to early access, and I was like, I feel like there was a period of time where it's like a lot of the same kinds of shooters coming out, hero shooters, battle royales, and I jumped into Dusk and I was playing it and I was like, oh shit, that's right. I used to love like games that just go and go and go like this, and so Dusk was like the point that I knew that why am I not playing these all the time? And then I got back into boomer shooters, and that was when I was like, damn, if there was one company I could ever work with, it'd be New Blood.
Yeah, and then I got Gianni to shit on the toilet for 5 minutes in Fallen Aces.
Yeah, and it was really magical.
And we should play that.
Let me tell you, don't tell security, but there's a grand finale for PAX. Please look forward to it in the bathrooms. I'll be by Hall A East, Anton Blast's booth. We'll see.
But yeah, so it's kind of, it's all, we've come full circle, as we like to say. And if there is any game that represents the boomiest of the shoots, it's this guy's game right here, from my adopted country of New Zealand, Turbo Overkill. Sam, you want to talk a little bit about Turbo Overkill?
We had some other names for it first, didn't we? I need to hear those first.
Oh, yeah, I told Shannon we were going to say what the original names for Turbo Overkill.
Oh, yeah, there were a few.
Ultraviolence? I wanted to call it Hurt Me Plenty.
The best difficulty and
really
fight
good
me.
at naming video games.
Turbo Overdrive.
Turbo Overdrive, which I always thought was good.
I liked it, but then I kind of felt Turbo and Overdrive were the same word.
That's so who cares? It sounds cool.
It's kind of like saying fast.
I don't know, Turbo Overkill, I think that's a winner. I really do. Although, honestly, Hurt Me Plenty, that is the best difficulty, and fight me about it.
But so how'd you get here, and like what makes it the boomiest of shoots, man?
Well, definitely. I've been doing a lot of Doom modding. I never really touched on indie game dev. I just made maps all the time. But it wasn't until, I've been tinkering with Unity for quite a few years, but it wasn't until I played Dusk, like going back to Dusk again.
We get it. Dusk is good.
But it wasn't until I played Dusk that I realized, like, okay, maybe I should have a crack at trying to make some kind of shooter. Like, I just love playing this game. There's something really, like, games these days, they kind of piss me off sometimes because, like, you play a game and it's like, okay, I'm bogged down in like a 30-minute tutorial. I just want to get in there and start blowing shit up, right?
Rage 2.
Rage 2, yeah.
Thanks, Tim. But,
so I was kind of like, well, okay, Dusk could do it. You just jump in Dusk and literally the first 2 seconds you're like stabbing guys.
Yeah, I was a little, so when me and David were doing that originally, because I could tell Dusk stories till the end of time, it was my idea. I was like, let's just throw the player in with a bunch of guys, and if they die, they die. If it's the first level, what's the big deal? And I was a bit concerned, like, well, maybe it's too hard. Maybe it'll be too soon. Maybe people don't remember how to do this. They won't remember how to strafe. Everybody got it, like, straight away. Everybody loves the intro of Dusk, and I was like, cool, people do remember this shit. They do get this shit. And I think it really paved the way for, like, you could throw players into the gauntlet. We don't have to hold their hand anymore. Like, the people who are into our kind of games, like, they know how to move and shoot. We don't have to tell you how to WASD and fucking press your mouse, I remember I got a press kit for Serious Sam 3 once. And all it said was, run backwards and fire. And I was like, yeah.
Shoot the cyber demon until it dies.
But yeah, I think it's really it's led us to Turbo Overkill. And when's Turbo Overkill coming out?
I'm not sure I'm allowed to say, but definitely this year.
Your PR guy's like right there.
I know. He's looking at me. Yeah, it's like I'll get in trouble. I'll get in trouble if I say anything. So, but very soon.
Anything else to say about Turbo Overkill?
You have a chainsaw for a leg.
There you go.
have a chainsaw for a leg. Oh, we'll get to that in a sec. I've told this story before, but so I was kind of sort of working with Sam on Turbo Overkill for a minute before he ended up working with Apogee, because we got pitched another sliding Robot Man game at the exact same fucking time. If you can believe it, it's like twin movies, right? Remember like Dante's Peak and Volcano, or like Armageddon and the other asteroid movie? Like, sometimes that shit just happened. I was literally playing builds of Ultra Kill and Turbo Overkill at the same time, and I was like, fuck, this is like Sophie's Choice. But it all worked out really, really well.
That build I sent you Turbo back then was pretty shit, though.
I wasn't sick. No, it was sick. It was awesome, dude. You're so good. And that was the funny thing. Like, we were like, well, it's called Ultra Violence. That sounds too much like Ultra Kill. And now he's like, okay, I'll name it Overkill. I'm like, no, that also sounds too much like Ultra Kill. Fuck. So we are happy to say that now nobody confuses Turbo Overkill and Ultra Kill anymore. We did it. Turbo Ultra Kill. Well, that's what we'll call the bundle that we'll do eventually. Marketing, bitches. All
Crossover game.
All right, but that brings us back to the funny thing is, and we're going to talk about Nightdive Studios for a second. Can we get a round of applause for Nightdive?
Yeah.
Shannon, sorry, I've kind of like been talking instead of the host.
Oh, it's okay. You're much better at this than I am.
No, it's my laptop, so I'm like over here. But that brings us back to Rise of the Triad. And Shannon, if you'd like to introduce our special guest.
Yeah, we have the El Oscuro.
That's right. I am the dark, El Oscuro. Wait, we're on? Okay. I'm scary. I'm going over lava pits.
Jesus. Sorry, I got scared.
Supposed to speak Latin? Quid pro quo. I don't know. Anyway, have fun with this high definition version of the worst day of my life. I used to be a big supernatural being. I gotta destroy the earth. Why? God.
Wow.
That's right.
An inspiring performance.
And for those of you who don't know, that was Tom.
Yeah, that is Tom Hall. He recorded. He wanted to be here, but he lives in Seattle and it's very far away.
That's not an excuse.
What? Yeah, I know, right? 3 of us here from New Zealand. Also, he's at GDC because he was helping John Romero accept his Lifetime Achievement Award.
Oh,
Yeah.
We love you, John. You will forever be cooler than all of us.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we have Rise of the Triad Ludicrous Edition, which is really cool.
We're gonna play the trailer again.
you, please.
Lexi can field that one.
Yeah, come on, Lexi.
All right, so this actually came across Nightdive's desk. I had just got done working on the Blade Runner remaster, and then it just came up at a meeting. Oh, by the way, we got the ability to work on Rise of the Triad. And then I just thought back to when I was a kid. Rise of the Triad was the first game where I could actually feel like the people making it actually had personalities and were more than just people's names on a screen. It was amazing, and this was probably number 2 on my on the list of dream remakes that I was hoping to work on. Number 1 was Doom. Number 3 was Quake. This was number 2. I've done all 3, and I can't believe I'm here right now, honestly. So anyway, our lead engine developer, Samuel Villarreal, had a Skunkworks Rise of the Triad port in progress, and since then we had been deciding to just carry it forward, and we wanted to make sure that it was up to the standard of Nightdive's other ports. It uses the Kex engine, which is the same engine that we use for our other remasters, such as Turok Dinosaur Hunter, Turok 2, Blood Fresh Supply, the Quake remaster. You've probably, if you're in this room, you've probably played a couple of those games that went on the Kex engine, and we're bringing that technology to Rise of the Triad. So.
Yeah, plus some other stuff. You know, this is really kind of what I wanted to do 10 years ago instead of a reboot, but it took 10 years to get here, to get everybody kind of back full circle. And like, you know, Terry from Apogee had approached me again. He's like, hey, you know, we really want to be able to do a ROTT remaster now. And I'm like, you don't want us, you want Nightdive. Like, we're not the remaster people. So I reached out to Larry from Nightdive and Kaiser, and they were like, yeah, we could fit that into our schedule. We're not busy with System Shock. But we really wanted to do it right, do it justice. ROTT has never had like a proper source port ever, where it was almost every other retro shooter had. So we always knew there was this cut content. We wanted to make sure we had a new, easy-to-use level editor, had it on all consoles, got multiplayer, combat multiplayer working again, and we've been restoring the cut content, the unused sprites. You can see the female lightning guards are back in the game. We're cleaning up the sprites. Those are all going to be available in the new level editor. We've got Sven, their awesome pixel artist, making. I don't know if you remember, ROTT didn't have a Doom-style HUD. And that seems like a shame because you've got 5 playable characters. So now it's going to have one. So we literally, those are all brand new faces that, you know, we've had Sven been drawing to make like an optional Doom-style HUD for the game. We're building an all-new episode of custom levels made by people from the Doom mapping community, people from New Blood, people from Nightdive, people from Apogee. We really just want to do ROTT justice because we love this IP and this game so much. We even got Tom Hall to dress up in his frickin' Oscuro robe again. That's the original robe. He's like, I've still got it. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? He's like, yeah, he's like, that was my D&D robe. It was at my mom's house.
Oh my God.
I was like, yeah, man, go for it. He's got the Excalibur somewhere too, but he couldn't find it. But it's, you know, we're finally doing it, the port that ROTT deserves, you know, and we couldn't have better partners, you know, with Apogee, you know, publishing and Nightdive, you know, doing all the hard work, and New Blood hanging out and going, yeah, that looks good.
All right.
Scott,
I say,
we promised them free stuff.
Yeah. Now, I just want to say that, I mean, looking at that ROTT stuff there, we had no idea back in the mid-'90s when we were making that game, we'd still be talking about it almost 30 years later. It's just mind-blowing. You know, back then you felt like a game had a 1 or 2 year lifespan and you're on to your next game, and these older games are just forgotten forever. I don't know how the world changed to where we're remembering these old games, but it's kind of cool. And I had a question for Sam, because I don't know if y'all know, but he's basically a one-man development machine. And, you know, he does all the level design, the modeling, the coding, and it's almost like an inspiration that one person can pull off what he's pulling off. And I just want you to tell us a little bit about it, because I'm still fascinated by it.
About how I do it all.
I mean, yeah, how do you do it all?
no sleep, lots of coffee. Yeah, no, I mean, being able to work with Apogee it's been amazing because before I was doing this, I was working a job on the side, and at the time I didn't have a girlfriend, so I had a lot of free time after work to be able to, work on this,
It
stupid.
do be like that.
Yeah, it's like that. But now, being able to work with Apogee, I can work in the game full time. I can buy lots of coffee now, which is nice, and
Coffee and girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'd say thank God New Zealand upgraded their internet finally.
But I mean, it really is amazing. I mean, even with Dusk, how many people are on that project?
David Szymanski.
So it's just crazy that nowadays, back in the 90s, these projects would have taken, 20 people to make, like we had on Duke Nukem 3D. And now it's just, 2, 3, 4 people at most, and you can make games that were even better than we made back in the 90s. So
Yeah, there's a thing I like to say where now it's easier than ever to make games. It's harder than ever to get them noticed and sold. The technology, back then, you couldn't just pop it open Unity or Unreal Engine and do stuff. You have to build all these tools yourself. So now it's so much easier to make games. But it's really hard to get them noticed. But thanks to the boomer shooter community, you guys, every time a new one comes out, we can get it noticed, we can get it seen, we can get it in things like Realms Deep on the front page of Steam. And that's only because these games have enough fans and enough players. And if you keep buying them, we'll keep making them. Thank you so much for coming out. We love
Thank you.
Yep, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Keep playing boomer shooters. We'll keep making them.